What's going on, everyone? So the Detroit Pistons are a team that is linked to Austin Reaves. Detroit is a team that wants to try to land Austin Reaves. There is a ton of sense with Austin Reaves as well as Cade Cunningham, kind of having those two in your backcourt. Not just that, but Houston has the defense and athleticism and guys that can kind of mask Austin Reaves on the defensive side that the Lakers just don't currently have. They also really need, like we saw in this last playoffs, desperately need another shot creator, another playmaker, another guy that can just put the ball in the hoop for you outside of Cade Cunningham. So there is a lot of sense to be made in a potential Austin Reaves trade. But unlike the Brooklyn Nets, who again are a team linked to Austin Reaves, Brooklyn can just sign Reaves outright, right? The Detroit Pistons can't. Right? They only have $26 million in cap space, so there would need to be a trade. If the Detroit Pistons really want Austin Reaves, then there'd have to be a trade. Something worth noting before we dive into this is Austin Reaves said publicly at like a golf match, I ain't going to Detroit. Like somebody in the crowd was like, come to Detroit. He was like, I ain't going to Detroit. Now, at the time, right, Detroit was the worst team in basketball, right? So like, it's like, I'm gonna go to Detroit and be playing for a lottery pick every year, right? Like, why would I do that? Now, Detroit is one of the best teams in the league and, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and Austin Reaves might be the piece that puts them over the top, right? They might have been an Austin Reaves away from being in the NBA Finals this season. So, he's somebody that, again, makes sense for the Detroit Pistons and might make some sense now compared to a couple years ago. It might make some sense now if you're Austin Reaves to maybe go like, yeah, hey, I actually not against that. Because remember, Austin Reaves doesn't have to go to Detroit. He could just be like, nah, I ain't going to Detroit, and then that's that. But question becomes, what do you do to get Austin Reaves? Like, what trade makes sense for all sides? There's the potential of just a Jalen Duren, where you just straight up just double sign and trade Jalen Duren for Austin Reaves. And, both sides, Lakers get their center for now and the future and kind of this ideal player in piece alongside Luka Doncic. And then the Detroit Pistons, they get their secondary shot creator and secondary playmaker. And, it can justify getting off of Jalen Duren, his playoff performance, which, again, a lot of people were like, oh, Cade Cunningham's Luka Doncic. He's not. Luka Doncic, and especially the way he operates with a big, is no one else in the league does it, right? Like the lob threat is his favorite outlet. It's not his only outlet, but it is his favorite outlet, right? And that is always a threat when Luka Doncic is on the court. So, having somebody like Luka, I just think would unlock Jalen Duren in ways that not even Cade Cunningham has done. Plus, Jalen Duren's 22 years old. So it's like, again, there's some sense to be made. Work out a double sign and trade. Lakers get Duren. The Pistons get Austin Reaves. Like, that would be kind of the cleanest, like, boom, everybody wins type trade. But let's say Detroit wants to keep Jalen Duren, right? So then where do you go from there? And that's where things kind of get a little tricky. Right, Isaiah Stewart, I'd love to start there. Right, he's making $15 million. Then you have, Ron Holland. Right, he's making just under $9 million. So that'd get you to 23, almost $24 million. Right now, you get that athletic, physical, bruising, interior presence. Ideally, I don't want Isaiah Stewart as my starter, right? Like more kind of a backup, but again, a guy that can be that physical imposing and is one of the best rim protectors and interior defenders in the game. Like literally, like he is very good defensively. So you kind of get an anchor defensively, you get much better defensively, and then you get a high upside guy and a Ron Holland who is only 20 years old, 6'8", had a solid season last year. And then, from there, like you're in good shape. But outside of that, it's like, who's left? Could you maybe get a Dennis Jenkins, right? He's making $4 million, right? Tobias Harris is a free agent. I'd stay away from Javonte Green. There's some sense to be made, but again, I believe he's a free agent this year. Same thing with Karis LeVert, right? It's like, who else are you bringing in that makes sense? if you're the Lakers, because I don't think that they're bringing in a Sir Thompson. Could you maybe do something where, I don't know, you get Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, and a first, right? So you're only taking on like 24 million. They're taking on the other 14 million. They'd still have like 12 million roughly in cap space to go and bring in another player or piece. Like I said, maybe you add in a Jenkins if they get Austin Reaves. It's like maybe you don't need that guy as much, and there you go. So now you're at, again, like 27. So they're taking on like 13 minutes. So they'd still have like 15 million to play with roughly. Because outside of that, if it's not a Jalen Duren trade, if you're not doing just like a straight up Duren for Austin Reaves trade, again, like everyone else is kind of gone. Like Kevin Huerter, no. Isaac Jones, no. Chaz Lanier is too small. Saucer is getting too small. Again, it's like they're probably not trading a Sir Thompson, right? So really, it's Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart are the two guys that make the most sense. Everyone else is either a free agent or just make no sense for the Lakers. So to me, could you do something, like I said, where it's like you're getting Holland, you're getting Stewart, and then maybe a first, where it gives you another first, but now you got a high upside potential two-way wing. You got one of the best interior defenders in the game in Isaiah Stewart, who gives you some toughness and some physicality and stuff like that. You get another pick or two that now you can add to go make trades. Now you have as much as 4 or 5 first-round picks that become tradable, and you still have all your cap space to go and make trades and make moves and things like that, right? Like, especially if you're only taking on 23 million, right? Because, if you're in a spot where you're the Lakers, that might not be bad, because then now you could go, now your two kind of development wings, the two guys that you're building and growing with, is Adu Thero and Ron Holland, which both guys have great potential, great upside. Both guys are athletic. Both guys can, defend and just do multiple things out there on the basketball court. You then get Isaiah Stewart, like I mentioned, who you'd have under team control for the next 2 years. You have him this year and then next year at 15 million. So he's a good contract. That now you have your backup center, right? So now it's just figuring out who's your starting center. But now you have the assets and the cap space to go make the proper moves. Again, go get Miles Turner for free. And at that point, can you maybe get a Trey Murphy? Because now you have now you have like 5 firsts that you can go and be like, hey, here's 4 firsts. And, and there you go. Right? Maybe even absorb Cam Johnson. Right? Like, again, there's creative options there. If you could do something where, like, maybe you go trade for Herb Jones and absorb Cam Johnson, where it's like you have like Luka Doncic, Herb Jones, Cameron Johnson. Would LeBron stay for cheap, right? Because you go LeBron and then like Miles Turner. And then off the bench, you'd have, Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, Adu Thero, right? Marcus Smart. Can you keep Luke Kennard, right? Like, again, you're now in a much better position. Go bring in a Keon Ellis, go bring in whatever. And again, now you're a team that can compete with basically anybody, in my opinion, at that point. Now you got some real depth, you got some athleticism, you got some defense, you got some floor space, you got some shooting. Like, that would be kind of the argument there. But I think the thing that makes the most sense, like if you're like, what makes the most sense for the Lakers and Detroit would be just a Jalen Duren, Austin Reaves sign and trade. Like, there's some questions still coming out about how much the Detroit Pistons want to pay Jalen Duren, right? They're kind of iffy on kind of paying him. So, like, it's like both teams are in this spot where both organizations are kind of iffy on whether they should pay the guy or not, and then their guy or not. And it's like both teams need that exact guy, right? So to me, it's just like clean swap. we get Jalen Duren, you get Austin Reaves. I would try to get, a Ron Holland at least in the deal or something. I'd try to get something where it's like, Austin Reaves is better and more proven and blah, blah, blah. Right? Like I would try to sell them, but like if push came to shove, let's say worst case scenario, it's just Austin Reaves for Jalen Duren. I don't hate that. You got a 22-year-old franchise center that, I think you're fine. And then from there, it's just getting the rotations and stuff like that, right? Like, again, could you go take on, a Cameron Johnson, go trade for Herb Jones, whatever, and, have Jalen Duren with Luka Doncic for the next, 7-8 years. I think that's a pretty good approach, personally. But anyways, always, this is a discussion. I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. If you enjoy these types of videos, truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.